Good afternoon and welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today we're going to be changing the perspective. One of the hardest things to do as we get older and we get these sort of bad habits pretty ingrained is to make a swing change. So I've been kind of doing things recently on the channel where we've been talking about changing the ball position, and today we're going to be going one step further and actually changing your head position. And even if you don't get the opportunity to practice this immediately down the driving range, even though I'd strongly suggest you should, actually just by kind of spending a little bit of time at home and moving your head one way or another is actually going to change your perspective of how you can influence your club path pretty immediately. Let's kind of get stuck in and see what happens. Okay, so what we've been doing recently on the channel is we've been talking a lot about just doing something different in practice, yeah? And what I've also been doing on the channel is kind of starting to document quite a lot of people's live lessons. And what you'd have seen if you've watched those is basically what happens, I suppose, in essence, is that you kind of tell yourself this story of, I don't know, let's say it's a golfer who is swinging too much into out and hooking the golf ball. It's like you tell yourself this story that you've got to maybe swing out to 1 o'clock, or you've got to try and get up on the ball, or whatever it might be. And this story kind of manifests itself in your head into this sort of patterns of movement. And then all of a sudden you're finding it now really difficult to make a swing change. And this is really, really commonplace. And I think that what I'm trying to suggest is, you know, you might have a lesson and they might suggest that you've got to be in this position, which is absolutely correct. But to get into that position, and potentially what you need to do is just kind of break down a few barriers and just start to do some different sort of stuff. So what we're talking about in terms of reference to the head position is that it's not some sort of definitive thing, as a lot of the drills that we've been talking about recently aren't some sort of definitive thing. But what it will do is it will completely change your perspective of how to hit the golf ball. And even if it's just something that you did as like a pre-drill, will just help out massively. So for example, what we're kind of talking about is you kind of get yourself set up, George. You can, so let's suggest that let's start off with the idea that you're swinging too much into out. So if you kind of demonstrate a rehearsal swing, yeah, where the shaft works too much to the right, perfect. Now if you kind of now shift your head, so change your head position. So I would go like this way. So let me just, there we go. Yeah. So if you kind of start to focus, now the whole point is that you're now focusing very much on this sort of area here, aren't you? So then kind of show us like a shaft angle that works more towards the left-hand side as like a preempted. Great. Yeah. Let's say you're too much over the top and you're a slicer. So then you would change your head position the other way. Yeah. And then what this would do is that would kind of encourage you to do this. Now the difficulty is that it's going to be quite difficult on the video itself to kind of, you know, show you George's head position. So if we have a quick look from, again, this perspective, so that would be a neutral head position, which I'd strongly suggest that's what you end up obviously doing in terms of your state of being normal. Let's say, just show me the head position of trying to swing more into out. Good. And then show me the head position of trying to swing more out to in. So what you might do, and what I'm suggesting is, you know, you might try and hit a shot from that position. So very good, which as you can hear was quite a steep hit. And then you might change your head position the other way. The bigger point is that it's more like something, so for example, you're trying to hit a fade. Yeah, draw it and then return your head back to normal. Yeah, so then it's kind of maybe just something you would do as a little bit of like a pre-routine-y sort of hit. Yeah, you got that draw going, didn't you? Oh, I like this drill. So show us a head left and then hit. Yeah. Definitely working, right?
Yeah, definitely better shape than
of the path.
Yeah.
Well, I think it changes like your awareness of the space. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As to what's going on. So if you kind of show us just, you know, as you're doing it, so show us like a head, like a fade swing. So head that way, yeah. And then you're kind of much more aware of the space that's going on to the left of you. And then if you kind of tilt your head the other way, I think you become much more aware of the space to the right of you. Yeah. So it kind of encourages, yeah. So I think even if it's something that you just end up doing as like a little bit of a pre-impacty sort of drill, like a little twitchy, yeah. Don't go full Matt Wolf style on it. Yeah. You're kind of trapped in a bit of a bad habit, which let's suggest that's a large proportion of a lot of amateur golfers. What we've done recently is kind of like suggested, okay, well, when you go and practice, in the last video, it's like, well, instead of just doing the conventional stuff, why don't you aim more open and move the ball further forward, so it encourages you to kind of change the feeling of the hitting area. Although in reality, I suppose what we're trying to suggest with that drill, and that's something you've been working a lot on, right, is like, okay, well, when George first did it, moving the ball further forward and much further away, it's like it forced him to look more this way. And then what we're slowly doing now is just repositioning back to a more neutral stance, but because of the rotation, he still delivers the same sort of hit. So what we're also suggesting is if you're somebody who's kind of gets caught under plane and a little bit kind of flippy and getting stuck behind the ball and you know you don't rotate, well then why don't you kind of get set up, tilt your head massively so it's almost like you're looking at the front portion of the golf ball. You're much more aware of the space towards the left-hand side of your body. And then, yeah, if you want to, maybe don't return it all the way back to neutral and just kind of set up this way. It will force you to swing much steeper and slightly more out to in, but it kind of creates more of an instantaneous swing change again, doesn't it? And even if you don't commit to it and it's just something that you're a bit like, oh, you just try at home, you might just go, oh yeah, my driver, I create a tilt. Oh, actually, yeah, I understand what you mean. If I tilt my head, I feel like I'm going to swing more out that way. And at least then it's just a drill and something else that you can do when you practice. So tilt your head to kind of either alter into out shallow, you know, or whether it's a more neutral sort of low left to right shape. But again, it's something that's potentially going to become much more natural to change that swing.
Like different shot shapes.
Yeah.
I think it kind of helps with that feeling, because you're not going to be working on a specific drill to
No.
kind of fade it, but like you want that feeling of kind of cutting across it, so if you need to cut it around the tree, or if you need to draw it around something.
Which is going to become a massive feature of the channel when we start playing a bit more. You know, it's just that sometimes you just need to survive and have different types of shots in there. Yeah. But then the other thing that I quite like about this drill is that, you know, let's say you're getting over the ball, and again, we're going to talk about this in more detail, and you kind of, you know, got loads of different swing thoughts going through your head. Yeah. You know, instead of like, oh, I'm going to try and drag the handle left, what you can do is just kind of tilt your head, have a little pre-rehearsal, and then get back into it, and it kind of at least gives you that sort of awareness as to where the shaft should be moving. Okay, so there we go then. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Remember, it's absolutely free to press that subscribe button. If you're going to do so, you might as well press that bell icon as well. So that means that you'll receive notifications every time a new video comes out. The idea is that basically if you're trying to make a swing change, obviously you need some sort of plan as to what it is that you're trying to do. But today's video should hopefully resonate with golfers that are getting massively trapped either too much on the inside or even too much on the outside. And what that'll do is that will just kind of help you just make a bit more of an immediate swing change. What we're trying to do is we're trying to come up with drills, exercises and things that are going to make you change instantaneously to solve the task of what we're basically doing. So like I said, make sure you press that subscribe button and watch some of the future content as well. Trying to help you guys make those changes going in towards this year.